friends, it's Teresa. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be talking about my recent reads, all the books I've read from May to September. I don't think I've read a ton of books, but we will see how this, let's just kind of jump in. So I'm going to start off with the books I read in May and then go down. Obviously, I've been in a huge reading slump since the beginning of the year, so it's not a huge amount of books, but a decent amount. I'm totally catching up to my Goodreads goal, so I'm hoping my slump is entering its ending era and I can get back to my reading era. The first book is The Bone-Charred Daughter by Andrea Stewart. This is an adult high fantasy. Thank you. High fantasy novel. I'm just going to the synopsis because I don't remember this book too much. But this is about the Emperor's reign has lasted for decades, his mastery of bone-charred magic powering the animal-like constructs that maintain law and order. But now his rule is failing and the revolution is sweeping across the Empire's many lands. Lynn is the Emperor's daughter and spends her days trapped in a palace of locked doors and dark secrets. When her father refuses to recognize her as the heir of the throne, she vows to prove her worth by mastering the forbidden art of the bone-charred magic. Yet such power carries a great cost, and when the revolution reaches the gates of the palace, Lynn must decide how far she is willing to reclaim her birthright and save her people. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. From my memory of it, I really enjoyed it. I really kind of found it creepy how the bone constructs were just like different animals kind of shoved together, and the concept of like how Lynn was trying to regain some of the memories that she lost over the years. I found that really interesting. I think at the end, the thing that got me was the plot twist. I feel like the plot twist kind of lacked what I needed to make it seem satisfying. There weren't very many hints about what the plot twist was going to be at, so when it came like at a very shock, like a huge shock, and not in a oh my god I saw this coming, but the setup was good, in a shock that like I'm not entirely sure where this book was trying to take it, and it feels like it kind of just got thrown in there. I don't know if I'll be continuing on with this series. Right now I'm in a huge fantasy slump, so I might reassess and see how I'm feeling come when I'm out of the fantasy slump, but we will see. The next one is The Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I have a full-length review for this one, so I'm not going to go too much into detail, but it's an adult paranormal romance following a young girl who is a vampire who was raised with humans for her entire life and doesn't really fit in with vampires. I forget what her name is. Let me find out. Misery. She's a vampire. She has been raised with the humans as kind of a bargaining chip to keep the peace between the humans and the vampires, and now she's getting married off to the werewolf like alpha of like their territory to keep the peace between the vampires and the werewolves. I gave this, I think, a 4 out of 5 stars as well. Like I said, I have a full-length review to be able to discuss all my thoughts and everything. I like the book. It's a paranormal romance. I jive with paranormal romances pretty much typically all the time, so it was no secret that I was going to enjoy this one. I forgot what my big thing with this was. I think it was just that there were like a bunch of unnecessary chapters that I feel like was in this book, and it could have just done more to help develop the plot and the characters just a little bit more had these chapters just gone away. Moving on to a huge set, I'm just gonna talk about it. I read volumes 1 through 10 of A Sign of Affection by Sue Morishita. This is a contemporary romance following a young girl named Yuki. She is deaf and is currently in her sophomore year of college until she meets Itsuomi kind of on the bus heading to school, and he kind of falls head over heels for her and is going purposely out of his way to get to know her language, and just get to know how she sees the world. I gave all 10 volumes 5 out of 5 stars. I watched the anime and I had a lot of fun with it, so I went to the manga to read more, but this manga just had me kicking and giggling, kicking my feet and giggling, and it was just so cute and so lighthearted and exactly what I needed to kind of bring up my mood a little bit. But yeah, I highly recommend this manga if you haven't read it yet. I'm in the middle of reading another manga, which is gonna become an anime in 2025, which is The Fragrant Flower That Blooms with Dignity. Also very cute, very precious. Also highly recommend, but you'll hear more about my thoughts in my September wrap-up. Oh, this is my September wrap-up. We'll talk about it. The next one is Ashley Parker Doesn't Fall, which is a kind of companion spin-off novel to Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This is an adult romance novel following Ashley Parker, who is Delilah Green's stepsister in the first book, and follows her as she tries to be like the perfect daughter, following everything her mom says. And in an attempt to save her business, because you know small towns don't do a lot of renovations, she joins a like TV show to help renovate this like kind of inn and make it more modern and bring more people to it. And that becomes an issue with Jordan, who is the lead carpenter, and they kind of start to butt heads. It's a fun little romance. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I love Ashley Herring Blake's writing. Something about it is just so fun and easy to get through for me. I first read her middle grade novel, which I really loved, and I really am loving this one as well. I think it's super fun, super lighthearted, and just like the right amount of steamy to make it just super like fun to read and enjoying to read. And I like the character growth, and it's just so fun. I'm gonna say that a lot, but it was a lot of fun, and I highly recommend it if you haven't read it yet. The next one is Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is an adult contemporary fiction novel following January, who is a hopeless romantic who writes about romance in her novels, and Gus, who is a very serious literary type who thinks love is very much a fairy tale. You think they're very different, but they have a lot of things in common, one being that they have writer's block. So while they're on this getaway trip to hopefully clear their minds and figure things out, they decide to do a little kind of like test. They will switch genres. So she will write in like his literary fiction, and he will write in her romance genre, and they'll take each other on dates to kind of help the other get some research in and figure out how to write in this specific genre. 5 out of 5 stars. This is my first Emily Henry book. It was a lot of fun, very lighthearted. I highly enjoyed it, and I understand the Emily Henry hype, so I highly recommend if you have not read it yet. It was a lot of fun. It was very cute, very giggly, just very like, it was serious without being too serious, and it's just like a right amount, I think. The next one is a standalone fantasy, and that is The Absence Underground by Jamie Pasta. It's a YA fantasy kind of comped as Moulin Rouge meets Holly Black. It's friends to lovers, it's sapphic. Sybil is very interested in like embracing the freedom that she has after running away from her family, whereas Esme is just kind of really just wants a simple life. The two of them are very broke and are kind of stealing posters all around France to try and make a living. That is until they get caught, and they are asked to go on a secret mission to break into the fairy realm and get something out for this person who is a fairy trapped in the human realm to help bring her back. It's a lot more difficult of a description, and that was the best I could do from my memory. I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed the premise. I just also have learned that I'm getting really tired of a lot of fantastical settings. Being set in France or being set in a French-like world. I'm just over it. I don't know what it is about France. Everyone seems to want to write fantasies about it, but I just kind of lost my interest. But my biggest issues with this book was that I feel like we wasted a lot of page time not really developing the characters, not really developing their romance, and not developing the plot. And I felt the two characters in this romance were very much not meant for each other. Esme wants a quiet life, Sybil is very reckless and wants an exciting life outside of her very planned life back home, and they never had these conversations. There's even a point where Esme gets annoyed and angry that Sybil is doing so many rash things and that she just wants to like have her sit down, but there was never a moment where they talked about it and had a conversation about how they were feeling and how are they going to get past the fact they were two completely different people who wanted very different things out of their lives. So yeah, I feel like the premise was good. It had a lot of potential, but it just fell flat in so many things for me that I was just like, I really don't know why I want these characters to win. I don't know why I want these characters to end up together. So truly not it for me. The next one is The God in the Gummy Ho by Sophie Kim. So this is an adult high fantasy set in a like modern world. Kim Honey is a like Gummy Ho, which is also known as a Scarlet Fox, and she spends her days working in a cafe, trying not to let a certain customer irk her. I'm gonna say this super wrong. I'm really sorry. I'm literally trying to find a pronunciation of the main character's name, but I can't find it. They're only giving me Seogi. But Seok. They are a trickster god who was thrown from the heavens after his attempt for a coup, spending his days with humans trying to like redeem himself. When a demon of darkness escapes the underworld, these two have to form an unwilling alliance to figure out exactly what's going on. And on top of that, Kim Honey also has a bunch of secrets of her own that she wants to keep buried, which will get uncovered if they help. I guess the 4 to 5 stars. I will definitely be buying a physical copy of this book, and I'll be picking up the sequel to this duology because it was just so good. I really enjoyed the writing. I thought it was beautiful, lyrical writing. I love the characters. I love seeing Syoka's character arc going from I really hate humans to I really care about humans, and then foregoing his potential to become an immortal to be with the woman he loves. I love that. And I love the Korean mythology that's integrated within this world, in this modern world. It's kind of what I was like expecting with Crescent City by Sarah J Maas when I first read it, but it was so much more well thought out and more well fleshed out that I just had a lot of fun in this modern setting with fantastical creatures. The only reason I gave it a 4 was because I feel like Kim Hani's redemption arc wasn't what I was anticipating. I feel like at the end it just wasn't what I wanted out of her character. I feel like she got away with a lot of things and didn't have to really answer for it, and that's kind of where I was like, well, that's kind of just not really but we'll see. Maybe my idea of her redemption arc will change as I get the second book, the sequel, and we'll see how that fits into everything and how much I enjoy that. Moving on to Beautiful Villains by Rebecca F. Kenney. This is an adult retelling of Great Gatsby following Daisy, who is kind of like out of college. She doesn't really know what to do. That is until her cousin invites her out to a party, and she ends up meeting Jay Gatsby, who is kind of a familiar but unfamiliar stranger to her. The two of them fall back in love, and she is starting to find things about him that she doesn't really want, that he doesn't want her to know quite yet, including a secret world hidden with their own that involves a lot of teeth. I give this a 1 star. I'll leave my review for it down below if you want to take a look. I just feel like I'm a fan of retellings. I just feel like this one felt really flat. It felt very shallow in its attempt to retell a classic that talks about things such as the American dream, whether or not it's attainable or not, the monetary, like money and keeping riches and wealth, and what someone will do to do that. And I just think the premise was good and it had a lot of potential, but the author I don't think should be writing retellings. It was just a disappointing book all around. I get kind of angry thinking about it, so if you want my full thoughts, it'll be down below. Moving on to Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This is an adult gothic novel following a young unnamed narrator as she marries a widower and gets swept up in their romance, only to come back to his home place and finds the halls of his manor are very much haunted with his first wife Rebecca and the memory of her. I give this a 5 out of 5 stars. I have another review on this. If you want to take a look at that, you can. I really enjoyed this book. It was such a fun gothic novel for me. It wasn't like gothic in the sense there were so many paranormal aspects of it, but it was gothic that you couldn't really trust the things going on. The floorboards creaked wrong and you couldn't trust it. The narrator is a very unreliable narrator, so it had you guessing with her. But I'll let you guys take a look at my review so you can see my full thoughts on it, because I'm not going to give it to you here. Okay, I ended up rereading the Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is a retelling of Achilles' myth during the Trojan War, only this time it follows Patroclus' eyes as he and Achilles grow up, fall in love, and have to endure the Trojan War when they're adults. 5 out of 5 stars. I have a review of this back when I first started YouTube, so I'll leave that linked if you guys want to take a look at very young Therese, fresh out of college Therese, reviewing a book that she really loved and is one of her favorites of all time. This is another arc, and it's already out, but that is 18 Roses by Shannon C.F. Rogers. This is a YA contemporary novel following young Luz, who is not exactly what her mom expects a young 17, soon to be 18-year-old to be like. She likes her baggy shorts, her baggy jeans, her sweatpants, her hoodie. She doesn't want to be the center of attention. That is until her mom is like, no, we're throwing you a debut. A debut is kind of like the Filipino equivalent of a quinceañera. It happens on her 18th birthday for girls, and it's just like us debuting into society. There are dresses involved, we have roses and blah blah blah. And the ceremony in the debut is the 18 roses, where people give you 18 roses, and like basically they're people who are important in your life and matter to you. And she has only one friend, and she has to figure out where to find these 18 roses, especially after her and her one friend have a falling out. I forgot what I rated this book, I'm not gonna lie. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I have a full-length video review of this book if you want to check it out and see my full thoughts. I really love this book. It was such a cute coming of age. I think for me what dinged it was the page count. I think I mentioned in the review that I got to 82% and felt like there weren't things that weren't very much wrapped up, but I'll let you discover what those thoughts were in the video. The next book is Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is an adult contemporary novel following Harriet and Wynne, who have been together for what seems like forever, but the news is they broke up. Unfortunately, their friends don't know they broke up yet, so when it's time for them to visit their like happy place in Maine to kind of be with their friends, they end up kind of fake dating to just fake it, because this is going to be their last time in this cottage as their friend Sabrina's parents are selling the cottage. I give this a 5 out of 5 stars. This book hit a little too close to home for me, but I really enjoyed this book. The friendships here are kind of the focal point of the book, and I really love that. And I love seeing Harriet and Wynne kind of figure their life out and figure out what they want to do and figure out exactly what makes them happy and what defines a happy place for them. So much fun. Highly recommend it. I'm definitely an Emily Henry fan, and I'll be reading more of her books and catching up, really. Okay, the next one, we're now in August, so we're a month away, is A Dark and Drowning Tide by Alison Saft. To me, it was pitched as a gothic fantasy, but here it's saying it's just a fantasy romance. But this is about Lorelei, who is a folklorist who wants to kind of make her way and be very known as a well-renowned folklorist. And the only person that she's up against is Sylvia Von Wolf. She has ended up picked for this position between her expedition that they're going on, but unfortunately the lead of this, the lead explorers ended up dead in this thing. So now she has to kind of do a weird murder mystery situation, and she and Sylvia are falling for each other, and it's just a time. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it. I think one, it was mismarketed to me. I was expecting a gothic fantasy, something creepy and crawly. This turned out to be a romantasy of sorts. And I feel like what I enjoyed was I enjoyed the characters. I like their depth. I like how Lorelei isn't a completely likable character. She's very complicated and very just unlikable, which is great. I like the world building. It was a lot of fun. I think to me, what got me was that I couldn't see these two characters ending up together. I couldn't bring myself to root for Lorelei and Sylvia as a couple. I just didn't feel the chemistry there, and to boot, I wanted just something more out of the plot. The plot went to a weird whodunit, but then it never really fleshed out to whodunit. You just kind of figure out who did it, and then there's a lot like a weird magical thing involved that they have to get to be able to gain power, and it was just like a lot of things I feel that were good and had potential, but didn't really well together is my thing. But I thought it was fun. I can't really say I would recommend it, but it was fun. The next one is A Monstrous Kind by Lydia Gregovich. This is supposed to be like a it's inspired by Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility. It's like a romantasy about two sisters and kind of a creepy village following Merrick, who is a daughter of like these lords who have power and immunity over this thing that's kind of coming through their town and turning people into monsters. She returns after the death of her father and finds that things are not well. I ended up giving this, I think, a 2. Yeah, I gave this a 2 out of 5 stars. I think this was also mismarketed. It's marketed as a romantasy, but I think it lacked the romance part of the romantasy. I think if this had been marketed as a story about two sisters and their struggles and them trying to keep this bond alive in this very difficult and mysterious time for them, I would have enjoyed it more. I think I tried to enjoy I like the world building, I like the lore. I think Merrick was a fun character to be in, and very much like trying to find a meaning in this world that she calls home. I think the added weird love triangle was unnecessary. It was an unnecessary position to put Merrick in and to put the reader in, because then it's kind of there were a lot of red herrings in this book, and not a lot of them were great. I don't think it should have been marketed as a romantasy. I think it should have just been a fantastical story about two sisters, and I probably would have enjoyed it more. Honestly, if you had cut out a lot of the romance aspect of this and the whole matchmaking, and we're in Regency England and I have to find a match to secure blah 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 blah, we would have gotten a lot more of the plot that I wanted and less of the romantic aspects of it that didn't really feel like it came to fruition anyway, so there was really no point in having it. I got really stuck into my slump, so I decided to listen to Princess in Waiting, which is the 4th Princess Diaries book by Meg Cabot. I rated this a 4 out of 5 stars. This basically just follows Mia as she's trying to be a princess. She visits Genovia for the first time, and it's just trying to make sense of the political world while also pining after Michael and trying to get in touch with Michael, but there's a time difference. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. It's very much teenager in love. It's very cute. It's very fluffy. I think the author, the audiobook narrator did a really, really good job of sounding like a very annoying 15-year-old pining after her romantic partner. That probably was what dinged me, was that she was so good at being annoying that I was just annoyed the entire book. But I like the progression. I like that Mia is just very like this character who's just figuring out life, figuring out how to be a kid and how to be like a pseudo-adult in this world that wants her to be this adult. But again, yeah, it's just very annoying to have her count down all the things. She was like 24 day, it was like what, 6 hours, 2 minutes and 60 seconds without having spoken to Michael. 7 days, 30 minutes, 42, 43, 44, 45 seconds without having spoken to Michael. And I was just like, I understand the point and I understand the demographic, but I need something else to hear for the next 5 hours. And the next one, I read The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity by Saka Mikami, volumes 1, 2, 3. I'm currently on volume 4, and I gave all of them 5 out of 5 stars. So basically this follows 2 opposing schools. Chidori is an all-boys high school where all the ruffians kind of are, that's what they're categorized as, and I think Kikyo is the all-girls high school across the street that's full of prissy girls who are on scholarship and have a lot of money, and they look down on the boys in Chidori very much. This follows a boy from Chidori and a girl from Kikyo who meet and fall in love and have to keep their relationship a secret from friends from the school because the teachers look down so much on the boys in Chidori that if they find out the student was involved with one, they might revoke her scholarship. I gave all 3 volumes 5 out of 5 stars. It's just so cute and so wholesome, and I cannot wait for it to be animated. I'm like kicking my feet and giggling in the air every time I read one of the novels. It's just so good, and I highly recommend it if you had not had the chance to get to it yet. Okay, so I forgot a book for my wrap-up that I'm going to talk about now because I was in the middle of editing this and I was like, I forgot about this book. But I ended up DNFing a book during this entire, like, what, June, July, August, 5 months. During this 5 months, and that is Fix It Witch by Anna Aguirre. This is an adult romantic comedy following a young witch whose name I'm forgetting. Danica, who is like part of a appliance fixer company that's run by witches. She's kind of in a weird romantic slump, but she ends up falling for this baker whose name I'm forgetting, Titus, who's the owner of the Sugar Daddy's Bakery. They end up starting to date, and then Danica's kind of stuck in this weird area because she's not supposed to be dating humans. If she dates or falls in love with a human or marries a human, then she ends up having to forfeit her powers. So she's stuck in this weird in-between. I wrote this on audiobook because I've been in, like I said, a slump. So audiobooks were starting to kind of help me. But this put me in an audiobook slump. I didn't know that was possible. I ended up DNFing this at 43%. I just wasn't prepared for the amount of horniness that this book had. And that's saying something. I just think the writing was just a little bit too horny for me in that moment. So it just kind of got turned off when I'm trying to go sit in the office and like work. And all she can talk about how sad she is that she has to break up with him. But she's even sadder that she couldn't sleep with him. And then he thinks he's going to marry her off the first beat. But he's a virgin, so he doesn't want to tell her she's a virgin. And there was a whole weird thing when they were first having sex where he wanted to wear a condom, but he didn't want to ask her about wearing a condom, so they forgoed the condom. And he didn't want to tell her that he was a virgin, but he also didn't want to come off that he was inexperienced. And then the entire sex scene was him being like, focus on her, focus on her, focus on her. And I was just like, I get it. It's probably more realistic this way. but I don't need you repeating how often to focus on her pleasure for it. So DNF'd it. I probably won't be picking this back up again. It was just not the right thing to get me in the mood for like Halloween season. I just wanted a nice witchy read, or listen, I guess, and that wasn't it. So yeah, back to actual trees. The next one, the last one, is one that I finished literally the day before, and that is Sorry Bro by Talene Voskuni. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. It is an adult romance novel following an Armenian-American woman who just got proposed to by her tech boyfriend in the middle of Oktoberfest. She turns him down, and while he goes to Germany to be sad, she tries to figure things out in the home front. She just kind of wants to figure out her mom ends up throwing her into this thing called Explore Armenia, which is a series of like events that brings the Armenian community closer together and gets to like let the youth understand what's going on with the Armenian genocide, or what happened with the Armenian genocide, how it was like closed up and where these people went, and just trying to get them back in touch with their culture and their heritage. And there she meets a girl whose name I'm forgetting, who's Erebuni. Yes, Erebuni, who is a witchy Armenian, and they just kind of hit it off. But she is kind of torn about where to go and how to be and who to be. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. I really wanted to love this book. I was like, a book with an Armenian American woman. Never read one, I don't think. It's queer, and Erebuni is witchy, and it's all about getting back in touch with your heritage and figuring out who you are. I just found the narrator to be very immature in her descriptions. It felt like I was reading the book from like a teenage boy's perspective, or like someone in high school still, and not a 28-year-old woman. It was also just not sure, I think, in the beginning as to what kind of story it wanted to tell. We had Naresh learning about her Armenian heritage and learning how to embrace these things about her and how to love the brown of her skin, the curl of her hair, the food and like really appreciate the food and what this means for her heritage. So I thought it was going to be a coming out story of her also getting to learn and figure herself out, only for her to say that she was out. She's like, she knows she's bi, but she's not out, kind of thing. So I was like, okay, that's fine. But then she implied that she tried to come out before, and again, I think there was just too much happening in this book. Like, I think I would have preferred it if it was just a queer woman. Like, if it was one or two ways. If it was a queer woman who was trying to relearn her Armenian roots after breaking up with her boyfriend, who was very much not appreciative of who she was. I think that would have been a beautiful story. Or it could have been an Armenian woman who is really close to her roots, but had a boyfriend who didn't really appreciate it, broke up with him, and then she learned out that she was queer and she has to figure out how this ties into her Armenianness. That's a word now, I guess, and how to maneuver and navigate that. I think those two stories would have been beautiful separately, but putting them together, I feel like gave me a very a character that I couldn't really follow with, and was just a very difficult character to follow along throughout her journey. I loved it. I will definitely be trying to learn more about the Armenian genocide and learning what happened there, because I have never heard of it up until this book, and it's a very important thing to be talking about, but the story meshed together was just very disjointed to me, and I feel like it would have been, the stories would have been stronger had she just picked one version of the story to tell, rather than meshing the two together. And that is it for my May to September TBR. That wasn't so bad, was it? But if you have read any of these books and want to talk about it in the comments below, let me know. If I have inspired you to read these books, let me know as well. And until next time, hit like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!